Welcome to another video from explainingcomputers.com. This time I'm going to show you how to write a simple web page using the Hypertext Markup Language, or HTML. All you need to follow this through is a web browser and access to a text editor such as Notepad, which is included with Windows. So let's go and get started. So here we are in Windows, where on my C drive I've created a directory called test.html where we're going to store the content we create in this video. So I'm going to go down and launch Notepad. We'll just type a Notepad in there and it'll come up. There it is. As I said in the introduction, you can do everything here with Notepad. You could use more complicated editors, but Notepad will be fine for our purposes. And here under Format, I've turned on Word Wrap, and I've also set the font to a relatively large size, a 20 point, so you can see things more easily in this video. And if you're using, say, a Linux operating system, you can use the text editor there. If you're using a Raspberry Pi, you can use the text editor there. Providing you've got a text editor, you can follow through and write a web page, as I'm about to show you. Now, all HTML documents consist of elements which are built up from content and tags. And to create the most basic HTML document, we first need an HTML tag, like that at the start of a document, and at the end of a document, another tag which will close off our HTML, which looks like that. And as you can see, the tags all start and end using angled brackets. The opening and closing angled brackets, the inequality signs, or less than or greater than signs, is what we use to make tags in HTML. And normally, but not always, tags work in pairs, as we can see here. This is a tag at the top to open our HTML. This is a tag at the bottom to finish off our HTML. And as you can also see here, it's often the case that the closing tag is the same as the opening tag, but with a / sign after the opening angle bracket. So, with all of that said, let's put some content onto this page. Let's write a hello. It's always a good thing to do. And maybe this is a simple web page. There we are. And we'll now save this. We'll go to File and Save. And there, we'll have to enter a name now. We'll also navigate to where we want to save it, which wants to be in that folder I created down there. There we are, test.html. And we're going to call this index.html. And be careful to enter the HTML here, because if you don't, Notepad by default will save it as a TXT, a text file. We want an HTML file. So we'll save that. And if we now then go across to the folder we'll actually put this in, you'll see there it is, index.html. If I click on that, it'll open up our browser and it's saying, hello, this is a simple web page. And how big that comes up will depend on how you've got your browser scaled. If I use the control key and the plus and minus arrows, I can make that bigger and smaller. I've got this set fairly large so you can see things easily in this video. Anyway, let's go back to our document. I'll be using Alt Tab to go back and forth across this video between the code itself in Notepad and Alt Tabbing back to the web page so we can see our changes. And let's just add in a bit more text. Let's put, for example, this is a second paragraph. That sounds a reasonable thing to do, doesn't it? And we'll save things pressing Control and S to save. I'll keep saving that way on the keyboard. Alt Tab back to the web page. I'll press a Control R to refresh. And our second paragraph isn't quite a second paragraph, is it? And the reason for that is that in HTML you won't get a line break unless you actually decide to put one in. So here what we could do is to put a break tag in here. We could go BR like that for break, save, back to the web browser and refresh, and then we'll see it's gone to a second line. You might want the paragraph better spaced than that. We can put in a second break character, save, back again, and there we are. But probably the better way to do this is to use the paragraph tag. So I'll get rid of that and I'll put around each paragraph, we'll put a P there at the start and close the paragraph tag there. Do the same thing down here and also there, that, save, back again, and yes, we've now got it formatted properly using the paragraph tags. But having said that, there are sometimes occasions where it's useful to use those break codes I just showed you. Now, let's add a bit more. Let's maybe extend this paragraph to say, this is a second paragraph, including text in bold, italics, and underlined. There we are. And we'll save that. And of course, if we go over here, it's not in bold, italics, or underlined. But we can sort that with, guess what, some more tags. You probably would have guessed that. So if we go across to there, we'll put in a B, and a B with a / like that to put in some bold, and we'll put in some italics using an I. You might have guessed the I. You can now guess what we're going to use for underlined. Guess what? It's a U for underlined. Fancy that. And there we are. Get rid of the U there like that. Save again, Control S, back here, Control R to refresh, and we've started to add some formatting to our document. We might also want to use some headings perhaps, so we'll go up here and put a heading in the document, and there are tags for headings, the first one of which is a H1. There are basically 6 of these from H1 to H6, H1 being the largest. So here I can write this is a heading like that, and we'll close off H1 like that. Save that, back again, and there we are. That's rather a large heading even for me, so maybe we'll use H2 like that, and we'll save that and back and reload, and yes, I think that's a more reasonable size of heading. Right, as we've seen, this HTML code we've written here works perfectly well. But for compliance with widely accepted HTML standards, it ought to contain a bit more structure. So let's put this in. For a start, all HTML documents should begin by declaring their document type to be HTML, so a browser is certain about the type of content they contain. And to do this, we need to add a declaration tag at the very start of a document before our HTML code begins. So we'll put it in up here, and we have to type like this, doc type with that exclamation mark before it, HTML, close it off, and we've now added our document type. Next, we're going to define a header, which we'll put here after HTML has started. We'll do that by putting in a head tag and another tag to a close head like that. And there's all sorts of things you can put inside head, but all I'm going to put in here is a title tag there, and we'll write a simple web page like that and close off title like that, and that completes our header. And then the rest of the text in this document is going to be in what's called the body. So we'll put in the tag here saying body like that, and then we'll go all the way to the bottom, and just before we close the HTML, we'll close off the body like that. So we haven't done anything at all to the content of this document, we've just structured it better. And if we save that and go back to our web page, and I'll just note to you before I do the refresh that here at the top of the document, the tab in the web browser is labeled index.html. But if I do a refresh, you'll see it's now labeled a simple web page. It's taken the title we gave it, and there's also been a slight reformatting of the page by the web browser. Now, so far things are going pretty well here, I think, but our page is clearly lacking any form of interaction, any form of hypertext links. So how do we put them in? So let's go back to the code, and we'll also say the first line to say here's a simple web page with a link to Amazon like that. And obviously if we save that, Control and S, go back to there and refresh the page, we've now got the text there for that, but obviously that's not linked. So how do we put the hyperlink in? Well, what we need to do, we'll get rid of that for now. We could keep it and reuse it, but we'll just get rid of it. And we have to enter here an A tag, which starts like this, A and href and equals, and we now need to enter a link address. And if that's a link to an external website, the easiest thing to do is to go actually to that site. There's Amazon, and we can copy the address there, go back here and Control V to paste it in, close our quotes, and then close off that part of the tag there. We now put in the text we want to link, which is Amazon like that. And finally, we close off the A tag like that. So that will give us the link. And if we just go Control S to save, back to the browser, back to the simple web page itself, always getting complicated, and Control R, and there we are. We've now got a link in our page. If we clicked on that, we would go to Amazon, which is very exciting. And of course, we could go back in the browser if we wanted to. And of course, you might not want to go straight to the page. You might want that to open in another tab in the browser, and we can do that as well. If we go back over here, we can alter this to say href, and it's got the link. And then after the link, but before we close off that tag, we can put in this. We can do a target equals open quote underscore blank close quote. There we are. If we now Control S on that, go back to our page, doesn't look any different, but if we now click on Amazon, it'll open up Amazon in a different tab. And sometimes you might want to do that, sometimes you might not. Now, of course, there's also other links you might want to put in, which is links to your own pages. So let's put one of those in. Let's go back to the code over here. And this is a second paragraph. Let's get rid of all of that. I'm just being wild today. And here you can find some links. I'm going to put in there, but I'm going to actually do a link to a page called links. So href equals links HTML, and we'll close that off like that. And then we'll put in links, and then we'll finally close off the tab. Same format as we put above, basically href, quotes, address, end quote, end the inequality bracket, what you're linking, and then finally end off the tab. It takes a bit of getting used to, but that's the basic format for putting in a link. And just in case you're wondering, when you weren't looking, I actually created, if I can find it over here somewhere, where is it? There it is. I've created another page called links, which should link to. So let's go back to the code and save it. And then we'll go back to the browser and refresh. There we are. And here we can find some links. I'll click on links. And there we are. It's taken us to this page called links with some exciting links to sites like, for example, Explaining Computers, where we could go to. What a surprise. And we can go back to the home page because here we've got a link back to the home page. So we've now got 2 pages making up a little site we built. And you might be thinking, Chris, show us the links page. So I will. I'll just open it up here. If I go to a file and open, and you will have to make sure you set this to all files in Notepad or you won't see the files. And if you see links there, it's what you would probably expect. Just like the page we've written, a doc type HTML is opened, it's got a header with a title there, some exciting links, some links there, returning back to the index page, etc. So there we are. We've seen how you can put some interactivity in when we're building up our web page. Greetings, here I am back again, and I thought we'd now add an image to our web page. And to that effect, over in the folder we're working from, I've put this image here, SD cards AA, there we are, from my recent micro SD cards test video. And so if we go to the code over here, we're going to put an image in. I think, let's put it between our 2 paragraphs, let's put it in the middle of the page down there. And as you'd guess, we need a tag for this, and the tag starts like this. It goes img for image, then we have an src for source equals, and then we have to tell it the image, which if you remember is the one over here, SD cards AA. So it's going to be SD _cards _AA.jpg. And then we just need to close the tag like that. That's all we need basically to put in an image. And while we're here, it's worth pointing out that this file, like any other file you're going to be using in HTML documents and referring to, has not got any spaces in it. It's using underscores rather than spaces. Anyway, there is our image. Let's just save that, Control S again, go back to our page over there and reload. And as you'll see, this has not worked terribly well. The image is there, but it's rather large. And this is partially because I've got my page scaled so much to show you things easily in video earlier on. Let's take this down to 100% scaling. But still, that image is rather big on our web page, isn't it? So we can do things about that, of course. We can always sort things out. So let's go back to the code, and we can put in here some instructions to tell it the height and the width of the image. So we do say a width, say, I don't know, 560, and a height equals, what should we put? That's what 315 keeps us 16.9, if I remember rightly. So there we are. Amazing, these numbers that stick in our heads, isn't it? And if we just go Control S to save that again, back to our web page, and oh, there we are. That's looking a little bit better, isn't it? The image is now sitting more sensibly sized on the page. And of course, having an image here gets us to start thinking about the visual appearance of this page, and that gets us towards thinking about things like font control and the placement of elements and design and all that type of stuff, which I'm afraid is beyond the scope of this video, and will get us towards the use of things like cascading style sheets or CSS, which I might make another video about in the future. But one thing I will show you just to make this thing look slightly more presentable, is a trick web designers have used for a long while to make things simply more easily presented, is to use a center code. So I'm going to go down here after the body and put everything on this page to be centered. So I'll just put center like that. I'll go all the way down the bottom and down like that. We'll turn off center down there. You could just center individual elements if you wanted to, but we'll save that, go back, and that page is now looking slightly more presentable. Let's make it a full screen there as well. And as you can see, we're starting to have something that looks a little bit like a reasonable web page. Now, something else I just want you to note here is about links and where we locate files when we're using them in HTML documents. So let's just go back to the folder there which contains this SD card image. And often you'll put your images for a web page and a website in a different folder. So let's just create a folder here, new folder over there, and we'll call it images, like that. And let's just take our SD cards image and drop it into the images folder like that. And if we now go back to our web page and reload, the image is gone. You can see the size it's supposed to be on the screen, but the image isn't there. And that's because it isn't sitting in the same location it was a second ago. So if we go back to our code, we can fix that, because here we could put where it is up there, look, and we should have images /SD cards. That's where we've now put the image. Save that, go back to our document, reload, and the image has come back again. So I just wanted to show you that to make it clear you can actually use folder structures, directory structures inside any link reference in HTML, for example, in an image source link like that, or you could do the same sort of thing down here when we're referring to a particular document in a hyperlink. Guess what? To make things very exciting, I thought we'd now add a video and a map to our web page. So we'll put the video in here, I think. We'll have a paragraph there saying here is a video, exclamation mark, because it's very exciting like that. We'll put it in there, and we need some code to put in there. So what I'm going to do is to go to a YouTube, and it's over there. Look, I brought up a video, and we can click on a share in YouTube, and we can click on embed, and it'll bring up some code there. We can copy that code and go back to our document, Control V to paste it in. We get the HTML from YouTube to put in a so-called iframe with all that information about the video. So we just save that, go back to our web page over here and refresh. And oh look, the page has got longer because down here there's a YouTube video which we could obviously play from there, which is very cool, isn't it? And we'll also add a map, as we said. We'll go to a Google Maps. There is a Colwyn Bay on Google Maps. So let's just go to the menu. And down here on the menu somewhere there is a share or embed a map, and we want to embed a map, and we want to copy HTML. And we'll go back to our document again, and shall we have another paragraph? There we are. Here is a map of Colwyn Bay. There we are, and we'll finish that like that. You don't need to put all these things in, of course, but I like to have some text as well, and there's the code for that. Rather long, isn't it? We'll save that, go back to our document here and reload our web page, and hopefully we've now got the image, we've got a video, and we've got a map all embedded in our web page. I find it's fantastic the way you can link all things together on the web like this, building up things in the hypertext markup language. The HTML files we've created in this video are stored, as we've seen, on a local SSD on the C drive here in Windows. However, these files could be uploaded to a server on the internet to make them publicly accessible as a web content. And many options exist for doing this for such web hosting, and these of course go beyond the scope of this video. Even so, I thought you might like to see the content we've created here actually uploaded and working on the web. And to do this, I'm going to make use of the Amazon Simple Storage Service, or S3, which I demonstrated a few videos back. If you've seen my Amazon Web Services video, you might remember that in S3, and I've got it running over here, we store files in buckets which can be made publicly accessible. And so what I've done is to create a bucket here called a EC HTML demo, and in this bucket I've actually uploaded our files. You can see down there we've got the index file and the links file, and I've also created an images folder and uploaded into that the SD card JPEG file. And what I've done is to set the permissions on all of these files to be public, and what this means is we can now open up a new tab in our browser here, and I can paste in the appropriate link, and there we are. The content we've created is now working on the web. This is exactly the same as we've got over here, but here it's actually running from a C drive locally. Here it is running out on the internet, running from an Amazon S3 server. Exactly the same pages, all that sort of stuff. Our links should work the same way. We can go to that exciting links page. We can go back to the home page. There we are. It's all working absolutely fine. And very much it's demonstrated how we've managed to progress from writing some HTML code in Notepad to having a functional web page. Today, few web pages are written directly in HTML. This said, a knowledge of HTML remains really useful. There are often occasions where a little bit of HTML code can be dropped into things here and there, and in that context, I hope you found this video useful. But now that's it for another video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.